Are you struggling to be true to yourself and be authentic, be your true authentic self? Some signs of struggle with being authentic are things like you change, your personality changes depending on who you're around. Maybe you're hiding parts of you where you don't share your spiritual interests or what you really believe, maybe about life or politically. Or your day is filled with shoulds and have-tos. Oh, I should do this, I have to do this, and you don't really want to. And you see yourself doing them anyway, even though you don't want to. And here's a big one. A lot of people have this. You're in a career or a job, or maybe you even have a business that you don't really like. It makes a lot of money, pays the bills, but you have no fulfillment out of it, has no meaning for you, but you do it every day because it pays the bills. So those are all signs that you are struggling to be authentic, that you are struggling to listen to your true self, your heart's desires. Hi, I'm Deepa Lou, and I'm the Creative Mystic, and today I want to share with you why you're struggling to be authentic, how you overcome that habit of inauthenticity, because it really is just a habit, okay? And third, how your purpose spirit guide can speed up the process of you making this change from inauthenticity to being authentic, so that you can start to find the meaning and fulfillment and joy and happiness that you truly desire in your life. So let's get going. So why are you struggling to be your authentic self, to follow what's true in your heart? It's not because something's wrong with you. A lot of times people think, what's wrong with me? Why can't I do this? It seems like it should be so easy. If I know I want to do this, why am I doing this over here instead of that? Why am I doing the thing I don't want to do when I feel like this is the thing I want to do? Or you might be struggling with, I don't know what it is I really want, or who even my authentic self is, okay? But it's not because something's wrong with you. We all come in to a body, okay? We get born, right? The sperm and the ovum meet. Flesh comes in, a spirit comes in, a soul comes into that body. And with that soul comes different wiring, different karma, different things of how you're going to be and what you agreed upon to be, do, and have when you come into this body and be in this world, okay? But the family that you're born into and the environment that you're born into, you don't get to decide that, okay? You don't get to decide the belief system that the family has, I should say. Some people believe that they get to pick the family that they come into, and I do believe that's true for some people. And sometimes you pick a family because you just want to get into a body. It's one of the things I got said to me years ago when I first got on the yogic spiritual path, and it made sense to me because, like, with my family, I didn't really feel like I fit with them a lot. I felt like I was really different than my family. So if you feel that way, like you're really different, and that often can be one of the reasons why people struggle to be their authentic self, is if you got into a family and you just felt like, I don't really fit, and then you did things to try to fit, okay? But you come into this body, okay, with some predetermined things of that you said, okay, when I come into this life, this new life, I want to be, do, and have these certain things. But when you get into a certain family, sometimes the being part of who you want to be, which is the part of being authentic, right, doesn't match up with the belief systems that they have. And so that belief system that they have of maybe something of what makes a good daughter or a good son, or makes somebody, this is what means success, might not match up with who you are truly at the core of your soul. And so that's why you'll have problems being authentic. So I want to give you an example of this. So there's a comedian, he's a comedian actor named, was it Ken Jeong? Yeah, Ken Jeong. Sorry, I was thinking about what his name was. Ken Jeong. And he actually is a medical doctor in California. But he's a comedian that's been quite popular in some movies, and he was on that show, The Masked Singer. I don't know if he still is, but he was. And so he obviously, and I do not know the man, but I know a little bit about his story that I've heard. He obviously got programming, and it's quite common with Asian families that education is really important, and many Asian families want you to be doctors or, lawyers or engineers. They have like this list of or scientists that they want their kids to be, but his was obviously his parents wanted him to be a doctor, and so he became a doctor. But obviously, being a doctor, was not the career for him, because he opted to leave, with the encouragement of his wife, from the story I heard, to go for this acting, because this is what he really wanted to do. He wanted to be a comedian, and so he started to do that. Okay, so his programming made it so that he habitually was being inauthentic, even if he didn't know it. Okay, because he was doing a job that he really wasn't meant to do. He just did it because of the programming and the environment of his parents. Okay, so my own life, I was raised from the time I was a little kid, like 4 or 5 years old. I used to, at least that's as far as I can remember, my mom always saying to me, don't you want to go to college? Don't you want to go to college? And don't you want to go to UC Berkeley? So I was programmed with, I'm going to go to college and I'm going to go to UC Berkeley. And nothing's wrong with college, okay? But I was also programmed with no spirituality. I was programmed with the idea I don't know if there's a God. And, well, we celebrate Christmas, but not for the spiritual reason that Jesus Christ was born. It was my mom loved to give gifts. And so we celebrated Christmas with the idea of gift giving. But there was no spirituality in my family growing up. So I was programmed to think that it was not important, okay? And so when I started to go in the interest of spirituality, I felt really on my own. I felt like my family didn't understand. So the program that I got to support who I really came in as, which is this spiritual being, being the focus of my life, which I had to discover on my own because my family didn't believe in that it didn't support it. So when you get a different programming that doesn't match who you truly are on the inside, the way you come in, the agreements that you've made, the wiring that you have, and the karma that you come in with, because we all come in with all of that, then you will struggle to be authentic. You will struggle to be your true self. Because when you come into a family in a certain environment, what are we all programmed with? Oh, that we're supposed to fit. That we're supposed to find a place to fit. And the truth is that you may not fit. And so that programming you get from the time you are before the age of 7 is going to keep ruling your behaviors, and you're going to sit there and wonder, why am I doing this when I don't really want to? Have you ever been there where you're just like, why am I doing this? I don't even want to. But you do it because the programming is there. And that doing things you don't really want to. Now, I'm not talking about little likes and dislikes, like we get up and you brush your teeth and maybe one day you don't want to. I'm talking about you're doing something that goes against what you truly believe, or you're staying hidden. Like for a long time, I kept the whole spirit guide thing hidden because I thought, people are going to think I'm weird. So that was being inauthentic, and it took me having to come out of the spiritual closet and just let me talk about it. These visions are coming. I'm getting these downloads. Let me start talking about it. Let me start sharing it. So you struggle because of the programming. My struggle to let the spirit guide out and tell people was because of the program of lack of spirituality, of thinking that was, my parents were going to think I was weird because I do this, okay? So you have some kind of programming that's not supporting your true self. Now, because I haven't met with you and I don't know you personally, which I hope I get to, maybe you put some comments in the shares, because I'd love to hear some of your struggles about what you have with being authentic, because that's the first step, is starting to recognize and be aware when you're actually not doing what's true for you. So, and how you know that is if you really don't feel like doing it, you aren't feeling any joy or happiness from doing it, all those are signs that you're not being authentic, okay? Unhappiness isn't there just because you're meant to be unhappy. Unhappiness is there because you're not doing what's true for you, okay? So that's the first thing of why you're struggling. So what do we do with that, okay? We're going to talk about that next. So how do you overcome this habit of being inauthentic, of not following your true heart's desire? First of all, you have to start to understand the programming and how much it affects you, okay? Most people think that they are making decisions with their conscious mind of analyzing and deciding. But the truth is that most people, and if you're struggling to be authentic, this is what's happening for you, is you are making decisions with your subconscious programming. And your subconscious mind wants safety, security, sameness. It doesn't want you to change. It doesn't want anything outside to change or inside to change. It wants everything to be the same because that's what makes it feel safe and secure. And so in order to change the programming, you have to first become aware of the programming so that you can notice when you are actually making decisions from your subconscious mind. So here's how you know you're making it from your subconscious mind. If you're doing any decision made out of because you're afraid and you're trying to stay away from something, if you're doing it just because something's not logical or practical, okay? If you're doing something because of the logic or the practical, and that's kind of weird, right? So often people don't do things because they say, oh, that's not logical. And the other side of the coin is that people will do something because, oh, this is the logical thing to do. Have you ever heard yourself say those things? Oh, that's not logical, or that's not practical, so that means I shouldn't do it. Or, oh, this is the logical or practical thing to do, so I should do it. And that, again, the should or the have to is never good, all right? So the way you overcome that is to start to realize, I'm not in my heart. I'm not coming from my true self. I'm just falling to my subconscious programming. Because your subconscious programming is basing logic and practicality on the past. See, so I want you to understand the past is only what we know so far. See, because if you think about 100 years ago, people would think you were crazy if you told them that we were going to be able to have a phone that's like a mini computer, or that even before the phone, we could zip things across phone lines for the fax machine. 100 years ago, they would have said you were crazy, okay? And so that would be you being illogical, or you're not being practical. So logic and practicality is not the thing you want to be doing if you want to follow your true heart's desire and be authentic. Okay? You have to start to recognize, and this is how your intellect is meant to be used. You have to use your intellect to understand and see when you're actually in your programming, the subconscious mind. And you have to use the spiritual laws and truths to recognize that. Okay? Now, Einstein talks about you can't solve a problem with the same thinking that created the problem. And Einstein was talking about consciousness. Now, if you've watched my videos before, you might have heard me say this, but I'm going to repeat it again because if you're struggling to be authentic, you still need to hear this. See, that's one of the biggest things on the spiritual path is if you are still in struggle, if you are still not growing at the level that you want, or you're not enlightened yet, then you have to have deeper understanding of the spiritual truth to the point where you can apply it more effectively in your life. That is what makes true spiritual transformation. That is what really will make change. Not just knowing about something, but being able to apply it in your life, okay? So in order for you to overcome, I should say, this habit of being inauthentic, not following what's true, doing those signs I said of like doing things because you should or have to, or doing a job just for money, or changing because depending on who you're around, or hiding in yourself. There are others too, but those are the four I'm talking about today, okay? You have to recognize when you're doing one of those four things or all four of those things, so you can go, oh, I'm being inauthentic. I must have dropped to my programming. Because when you start to do behavior that is not true to you, it's because you're in your subconscious mind and your programming has taken over. So if you say the logical thing to do is this, but you still feel like it's not the right, you're in your programming. If you say, oh, that's not logical, that's not practical for me to quit my job and go do something I really love to do, subconscious mind, you're going to continue to be inauthentic. Now, I am not telling you to quit your job right this moment if you hate it or if you know it's the wrong thing. What I'm encouraging you to do, because this is what will start to change it, is to at least acknowledge that this is going on. Because what most people do is they go throughout their day and they don't acknowledge that they're not happy in a job, or they're doing something they don't really want to do instead of a should or a have to. And then they wonder why they're so unhappy. See, unhappiness is actually there as a sign that you're doing something inauthentic for yourself. It's not a sign that you're just a depressed person, or it's a sign that you are not making choices from what's true. You're making them from shoulds and have-tos because something is more logical or practical. Or here's one that I got programmed with, which is another thing, is I did what was responsible because my programming was that I was told by my father how irresponsible I was, of which when I grew up I realized I am not, but I got programmed things, you're irresponsible, you lost this, you're irresponsible. And so I was always trying to do the responsible thing because I thought that made me a good daughter. But I was being inauthentic by continuing to do the responsible thing. Okay, so you might have a different one. Now, obviously, I can't tell you what yours are specifically unless I was to work with you, because I do spiritual success mentoring where we zero in on exactly your energy and specific things. But today I want to talk with you about what you can do for yourself, okay? If you decide you want something like that, feel free to take advantage of my free connection call. And we can talk about if you're a fit for it, if we're a fit for each other. But I want you to start to become aware of when those things are happening. And you might even want to take along a little notebook in your day to write them down. Because what happens is when you get through your day, right, you don't even remember when you've noticed it. And at the end of the day, you just know like, oh, that day was exhausting. But you don't even know that how many times you actually went and did things that weren't true for yourself. There's no way you can be authentically you if you keep doing things that go against what are in your heart, what's true for you about what you believe and what you feel you came here on the planet to be, do, and have. Okay? So you got to become aware of that. Now, the challenge with this is you start to raise your level of awareness. It's one of the reasons why I always recommend people have some kind of spiritual practice, whether it's meditation or some chanting or something that makes you centered. It's because that raises your level of awareness to become aware of when you're doing these things that are not true for you, okay? But how do you change this? Because like I said before, is that Einstein said that you cannot change solve a problem with the same thinking that created the problem. You can't, and he's talking about your consciousness, okay? So how do you get a different consciousness when you have this programming, okay? Now, you can change it little by little, and you can work on that. And if you're on your own, it might take a little longer, only because we all have a blind spot, which is ourselves. You have a blind spot, which is yourself. It's hard for people to see themselves of what's getting them caught in inauthentic behavior. We're using that as an example. It works for many other things too, but we're going to use this today. Okay, we're going to talk about inauthenticity because that's what we're talking about. Okay, so how do you get beyond this consciousness of where you are right now with this programming that it can speed it up? All right, and that's what we're going to talk about next. So how does your spirit guide actually help you change from being inauthentic to authentic faster than if you did it on your own? Well, it's specific to your purpose spirit guide, because your purpose spirit guide is here to help you. What's the first purpose you have? Is to be true to you. because you can't know what your purpose is out there in the world. You can't be authentic until you're true to you. You have to be true to yourself. And your purpose, spirit guide, what it does for you that can be very difficult for people to do on their own is to get higher consciousness guidance. So if you have the programming of your subconscious mind, how do you get out of that subconscious mind? Well, what you need to do is come to the superconscious mind, that point between the eyebrows, and get that intuitive guidance that you get. Now, here's the key, too. You have to get it, but you actually have to trust it so that you'll act on it. And so often, because people have been programmed to not trust themselves, now, if you don't have that, great. I don't want to tell you you have it, because some people don't have it. But a lot of people have been programmed to not trust themselves by parents inadvertently telling them that what they want is silly as you're growing up, or that doesn't make sense. And so you get this programming to not trust yourself. And so we have to change that. Well, when you build a relationship with your specific purpose spirit guide, your purpose spirit guide comes in with the idea of it wants to help you first with being the true you, the authentic self. And it brings in higher guidance, so it's going to help you overcome that subconscious programming as long as you do the guidance they give you. Obviously, it's not like a magic button that they touch you on the forehead and it all goes away. But I've seen with working with clients, when they start to follow what the spirit guides, the higher consciousness guidance, it starts to undo the programming. Now, you have to be willing to do what they say, and you have to be willing to do something that you're uncomfortable with. So whether you connect with your spirit guide or not, you have to be willing to do something that you're uncomfortable with. Because what happens with that subconscious programming is you've gotten comfortable with not being your authentic self. And in order for you to be authentic, you have to be uncomfortable to do stuff that you are unfamiliar with. And that's what people get confused, is they think, well, if I'm being authentic, won't it just feel comfortable? And won't it be easy? And yes, it can be easy and it can be comfortable, but our programming makes it so it's not. That subconscious programming makes it feel unfamiliar. And we have been programmed to think, you have been programmed to think, that unfamiliar means uncomfortable, which it doesn't have to, but that's how most people have been programmed. And so you have to be willing to trust your spirit guide, and that even though what they're recommending that you do doesn't make any sense, you actually go and you act on it. Now, if you have a way to get higher guidance on your own, start connecting that way, okay? But if you want to start to connect with your purpose spirit guide, because let's say you're looking to be more authentic, which you wouldn't be listening to this if you weren't, but not just authentic to yourself, your true self, to be the purpose of who you came here to be, but also what you came here to do. So if you felt like something's missing, or that you want to do more than what you're doing now, your purpose spirit guide is here to help with that on also that level. It's who you came here to be and what you came here to do. So if you're wanting to do more of that and go deep on it because you're all in, you're ready, please check out my program, my training that I'm going to be doing. That's going to help you connect with your purpose spirit guide and help you start to step into who you're really here to be and also what you're here to do. And I'll be putting that in the show notes, but it's deepaloo.com/training, and that'll lead you to where you can actually learn more and sign up. But if you're not ready and you just really want to just do this on your own, you want to start to be able to, how can I connect with my purpose spirit guide? And you actually start to, if you watched my last video, I talked about what you want to say and do to do that. But you want to start to build that relationship with trust, like you would with a friendship. When you have a friendship where you really trust that person, you connect with them on a regular basis. So you start connecting to your purpose spirit guide on, if you can, daily. Say, I'm here, ready to connect with you, my purpose spirit guide, and be open to receiving the guidance and the messages. And here's the thing that can be the hardest for people, but is to act on it. So I always recommend, when you get that guidance from your spirit guide or from higher power, that you write it down. Because what happens is you get it and you might go, oh, that makes sense. And in that moment when you're connected, and then when you're not connected, you think, oh, that's stupid. Maybe I'm being stupid to do this. Have you ever watched yourself do that? Something like when you're getting the guidance, like feels right, and then when you later on you're going to do it, or maybe you think you're going to do it, and then you don't do it because another voice comes in, which is the voice of the subconscious mind saying, don't do that. That's dumb. That's not logical. That's not practical. Stopping you. So you want to be able to move forward on it. It's one of the reasons why doing a class can be really helpful, because it's like the program I'm doing, it's 8 weeks. And having that connection, that continual support where other people are doing it creates a synergy effect and makes it so the energy of creating that connection with your guide is stronger. Because when you do it on your own, often the programming will kick in and cause you to stop. And when you have other people doing it with you, you feel encouraged and you'll do it more. So I'd love to see you if you're ready to do this, okay? So make a commitment to yourself if you're doing it on your own, to connect with your guide every day and ask what their guidance is. Okay? So if you have any questions, please put them in the comments. And also, I'd love to hear what your struggle's been and what you're doing for it to overcome inauthenticity and becoming your authentic self. All right? If you like what you see, please share this with somebody that would benefit from it, and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to get more of this. I'd love to hear from you, and give me a thumbs up if you'd like. It all helps my channel. Have a miraculous day. Blessings.